Hello everybody. Oh, there's Tiggy. Come here. Oh yeah, you're very excited. This is Tiggy. Say hello, Tiggy. Tiggy is really wanting to explore. Now that I started this, I don't know what I'm gonna say. Don't mind the birds. But I just thought well, now I'm nervous. All of a sudden you have me blushing. I just wanted to make a little update video, mostly for myself, just because I have been a little bit mixed about how I want to document my time here in England. And yeah, I mean, if you know me at all, like, I just love documenting things. I have a horrid, absolutely awful memory, and so that's why I love writing so much, and I love taking photos, and I love recording things, because if I don't do that, then my future self is literally not gonna remember how I thought and felt and what happened. So yeah, so I just wanted to document this, and I thought at the same time I would just kind of do a run through, because I know some people just are really confused about what I'm up to right now, and I just thought it would be easier to offer a little explanation. And so if you don't know, I'm currently in the UK and I will be here until May. I left in January. I always just tell people that I'm in London because I find it a little bit easier, because usually if I say that I'm in the UK, people are like, oh, where? And then I tell them and they're like, I don't know where that is. But I spent the first few days in London. Honestly, that was such a hard turnaround. I literally had horrible jet lag when I came here. Absolutely horrible jet lag. It took me longer than any normal person, like it should, for me to get on a normal schedule. Some could argue that I'm still not. Kidding. But yeah, I spent my first 2.5 weeks in a town called Newark. It was wonderful. I took care, kind of the premise is I'm pet sitting for people, so I'm house sitting for people. Tiggy, who you just saw and who's gonna, keep coming into frame, is one of the cats I'm taking care of. Archie's coming over, so I hope that he comes to say hello too. I took care of a dog called Molly for 2.5 weeks. That was awesome. Or Mally. Whoa, sorry, that was rude to Mally. Come here. This is Archie. He is my sweet boy and I love him so much. Archie is a little bit more of my kindred spirit. Tiggy and I are a little more frenemies, which I do love Tiggy so much. But Tiggy has a habit of howling a lot at 3 in the morning, so sometimes we fight, but it's all in love. Archie is literally the sweetest boy in the world. Anyway, and so I took care of a dog called Mally, and for context, the reason why I'm doing this, which I'll do a little recap. I'll kind of spare you the sob story. I honestly have written a lot, and I'm going to continue to write a lot. It's just, I have a really hard time with making everything a project, and I'm like, oh, I want to make a video, so I'm going to devote my whole time here. Or like, oh, I'm going to film every single thing that I do. Like, we just know I'm an all or nothing type of person, and so I really have been fighting against that to an extent for this trip, because this isn't supposed to be like, this isn't supposed to be like a fun, like, of course it's gonna be fun, but it's not. I have a hard time communicating to people that this is more of like a healing trip and like a rest trip and like a reboot trip than like, oh, I'm just going to have so much fun and like I'm gonna take pictures and like go crazy, because also I'm very much like still working and living my life, which I'll talk about. But yeah, I love Nashville so much. I'm assuming you know that I live in Nashville. But I really just came to a point where, honestly, after postgrad, I just crashed out a little bit, to put it bluntly. Just because I know a lot of us, if not all of us, if you didn't have a hard time with postgrad, rock on. I'm so excited for you. That was not my experience. I think any of us would have a hard time just adjusting to like what life looks like after college. I think I think for me, I had a hard time because for a lot of reasons, but a big thing is just like I am a goal-oriented person, an achiever-oriented person, but I haven't really had like a dream for my life anymore. Like I really just let a lot of things go that I was hoping for over the past year or two, and I think with that, I haven't really known what to do with myself because you're put in this place where after you graduate, it's like, okay, workforce for the rest of your life. And I have a lot of crises about that because I don't really have a dream job anymore, and I don't have something that I like. I don't know. I just really struggled to do things that I'm not passionate about. And so to be put in a position where I'm told that I need to do something for a long time because I have to, of course, make money to survive and work to survive, I just have a really hard time with because I just delight in so many things and I have so many things that I'm passionate about, and unfortunately none of those things translate to a sustainable lifestyle, and if they do, then it also sucks the joy out of it for me, and then I don't know. And so of course that's a whole conversation into itself, but I was just having a hard time with that, and just of course I've had a conversation about, oh, I'm just 23, I don't know what to do with my life, and that's completely normal. I know that Nashville is a destination city to a lot of people, but that being my college town, and I know that I have a lot of friends that grew up there, it feels like a small town, and you get to know everybody there, and of course there are other circles that are not mine, but I think I just started to feel a little claustrophobic, just in the sense of like, what do I want from my life? I feel like I'm trapped in the same thing every single day, and I honestly got to the point where I knew I was taking things for granted, and I knew that like I have such wonderful friends, and I really have lived a very charmed life, and I just never want to be someone that takes those things for granted. And so I think a part of me is like, I almost need to step away from this because I'm complaining about things that are blessings, and I am not appreciating like the life that I have here right now. And I think I just need a break from it because, again, once I feel claustrophobic, I just like need space. And so I was really careful about coming here because I didn't want to just run away, but I kind of had just conversations where I was like, the two things that I know that I want for, I really am going a lot more depth than I thought I would with this, and but I just knew the two things that I know that I care about and I'm passionate about are traveling and animals, and like I just keep coming back to those two things. It's been cool because on this trip I think I've been expanding those things, and I've like realized more of like, oh, my other two things are reading and writing. Like when it comes down to it, those four things are so ingrained in me. Like those are like things that I know that I'm passionate about. Anyway, and so I really just, as we know, I'm an overthinker, and if you know me at all, you know that. I think a lot, I have a lot of words to say, and I just experience things very deeply and very fully, and so yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts about everything that's been going on, and I'm just gonna share some of them. But yeah, whenever I got here and I took care of Mally in Newark, which Newark, if you aren't familiar with the area's geography, Newark's like 25 minutes from where I am right now, so it was really nice because I booked my first two sets together. Honestly, those 2.5 weeks, I literally just let myself completely, like, what's the word? Not deteriorate, but I don't know, it sounds like so not romantic from what I know people hope for and see for me, but I literally just let myself kind of rot and recharge, and it was really nice because I had to I took their dog on walks every single day, of course, because I'm a wonderful pet sitter. And so we'd go on these walks in the conservatory by their house, and it was just really sweet because I had conversations with the Lord about how what's really was cool about coming here in January, again, not to be morbid, but just everything here was so dead, and everything here has been so withered and faded, and it's cold and like dreary, and I realized to some people that sounds miserable, but I think for where I was and where I've been, it like specifically for those weeks it was just so cool because I was like, this is how I feel. Like, this is truly like, it's just like something about being in the environment where I was like, no, this is how I feel, but at the same time I'm probably gonna cry because I'm me, but at the same time, like, you see things budding, and even in January you see like little bits of flowers and things starting to come in, and I feel like the Lord was very much like, yes, like, we are rebooting right now. And I'm a firm believer, like, winter is for resetting, but not in a like resolution type way, but almost just like I'm repaving and re-preparing myself for blooming again, because I feel like usually, again, like the whole seasonal thing, I think usually winter is hard for people and hard for me, and so it was just nice to be in a space that really met me with that, of just being like, yes, like, things are depleted right now, but spring is gonna bloom again, and spring is gonna come again, and it just made me feel hopeful again. And then also just was a sweet way of, again, I read so much, which is so wonderful, but like really just gotta throw myself into addressing parts of myself that I've wanted to ignore, and just processing some things that I haven't let myself, but then also just being like, oh, I get to choose what I do with my day every single day. And so yeah, so those were super cool 2.5 weeks. This month has honestly been so strange, but wonderful too, and I can feel myself changing and shifting. For starters, I think it's really important to address that the house that I'm staying in, if you haven't seen a picture of it, I'm gonna post another one on my next photo dump. It's literally the house from The Holiday, which every time I tell people what I'm doing, they're like, oh my gosh, it's like The Holiday, which is, I love, because as you know, or you may not know, depending on how obsessed with me you are, but The Holiday is my favorite movie. I love The Holiday. The score, phenomenal. I love Iris is one of my favorite female leads. I am obsessed with that movie, and I could talk about it forever. I'll probably do a movie analysis on it because that's what I can do with my time now. But it's just so sweet. I had no idea what this house looked like on the outside because I only saw pictures of the inside, and I pull up and I'm like, of course, it looks exactly like it. And if you don't know, that cottage in that movie isn't real, it's a set. And so I was like, I literally got the real thing. I literally got to live in the real thing. These cats are perfect. This house, like, the people who own this house are the kindest people in the world. Like, literally, like, bought me everything I could possibly need for a month of living. Like, I just felt so taken care of, and was like, oh, this is where I need to be. And then honestly felt in a really weird rhythm this month, which I think was necessary, but I think today was just today where like, whoa, like, what isn't going on, just because I'm 0-100, we know this to be true, and so if I resort to disciplining myself, or like if I want myself to exhibit specific behaviors, I will completely throw myself into that, which is cool, but also this is why I burn out a lot. A lot of therapy for that, but we've known that, or anyone who knows me knows that. Sorry. But anyway, and so this month I think I kind of had intentions if I was like, I'm working a lot, like I was just like, I'm working a lot, I'm saving a lot of money. Like, again, I think that it can of course look like, oh, I'm just gallivanting around Europe and having so much fun, but I'm working every day, and in fact I work more than I did before I came, because the hours are different here, and so I work at first I just worked in the evenings. That did not work for me. I could not sleep, and that made my jet lag be worse, because I would literally be up until like 10:30 and just like thinking about work, and then couldn't sleep. So then I started working in the mornings, but then I'm still on the line in the evenings. Don't worry, I get paid for that. But anyway, and so I kind of got into a really weird headspace. Also, I was so sick last week. so unbelievably sick. Like, I literally, like, let us just say we had like moments with the Lord, because I have never just been like, I want my mother, I want to go home, I like, I can't. And also, just with being here, it's like, oh, if I go into town, I take a 40-minute long bus ride. Like, there is one pub in this whole like parish that I'm in, which is so sweet, and I love that, and I'm so here for that. But it's just like not an ideal place to be sick when you don't have anyone to take care of you. A lot of metaphor in that, but yeah, I have really enjoyed my time here. I've watched an embarrassing amount of movies and read an embarrassing amount of books, but like, what else am I gonna do? Yeah, there have just been some really cool ways, and of course, I'm such a metaphor person. I love symbolism. I love, that's something that camp instilled into me, is we do spiritual applications, of course, which is, of course, as we know, it's just taking something from our life and just relating it to the Bible or to God, and it's really cool because I think that is just so deeply ingrained in me that I love it, because every single thing that I do, I'm like, I can immediately connect that to the Lord, which is such a sweet gift that I've been given. And so there are a lot of things here where, like, literally I could talk about this, but for one thing, there's a chapel in the center of the parish, which I love. I think I'm gonna write something about it somewhere. But for one thing, I always walk past it, but it's just so, I think old, like, cathedrals and chapels, here specifically, are really cool, because for one thing, they have gravestones all around them, which is meant to just remind you of, like, death to life, and you, like, walk through death to, like, go to life. And then also here, it's the way that they're, oh gosh, there's just so much in the way they're built, and so much, I don't know, but just things that I've been reminded of like, it's the center of town, and it's also the highest point in town, so even when I go on my walks, I can see it. And so it's just sweet to be like, the Lord is literally like, here I am, like, anywhere you go, here I am, and you can find me, and find your way back to me. That's literally how, whenever I started, like, navigating around here and going on walks, I knew where I lived in relationship to the chapel, and so I would, like, look to the skyline and find it, which I just think is so beautiful. The other things I've been thinking a lot about are daffodils, because I'm sure someone can argue with this, but I just kind of realized they're really some of the first flowers to bloom in the winter, and I just think that they're just so cool, because there's just so much else that takes until spring, but daffodils are like little bits of hope that come up early to just be like, no, spring is coming. Like, they're kind of like, they're like little hope messengers. And I think it's cool too, if like they open up whenever you put them into water, which of course has a lot of spiritual implications of like the living water, and like, oh, as soon as you like meet the Lord, then you open up and whatever. So there's a lot there, which I can word this a lot better, so I don't know, I'm talking about this. But I think that's really cool. Also, they had them for me whenever I came here. They had little daffodils in the windowsill, and I didn't even realize it for the first few days. But it was just such a, like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. And anyway, so yeah, so this month has been kind of whack, because I literally have there have been good days and bad days, but I've just been I'm such a habit person, and I get very stuck in this weird track mind of what I'm doing. And so it literally, I leave on Friday, so in 2 days, and it's taken that long for me to like have, like, I've had a lot of really sweet moments with the Lord, but today just felt so cool. But yeah, oh my gosh, because I haven't been able to go into Lincoln, which is like the big town next door. I have been able to, but I haven't, just because part of it is because I felt awful. And so last week I was supposed to go, but I felt so sick, and I was like, I should not be out in public, or I will have a miserable time right now. And I went to London one weekend, which was so fun. Of course, I don't regret that at all, but I'm like, I want to see the town that I'm here for. And I was like, I know people are gonna ask me, and I'm like, I didn't go, like, I only went to the train station. Anyway, and so I told myself, I was like, I'm gonna just kind of take a day off and go there and work in the evenings, or work this evening, which I need to do, because I don't want to have been to this place and not even have seen it. But then I woke up this morning and I was like, because I'm still getting over whatever garbage, I never get sick, and so whenever I, like, the few times I do get sick, but I genuinely just, like, can't cope. I can't deal with it, and it gets me. And so I woke up this morning and I kind of was like, I can't tell if I'm tired or if I'm sick, but I had already bought tickets to go see the new Bridget Jones movie, because that's kind of honestly been my hack of any time I've felt, which that's a whole other thing, but sometimes, like, this is embarrassing, but I get a little bit anxious, if you don't know, and sometimes it can be hard for me here because, this is so silly, but you don't have your car here for, like, protection when you go somewhere. Like, it's very much like once you leave your space, like, you're out for the day. Like, that's kind of, like, that's been a huge thing for me to get used to, if it's not like, oh, like, I can go to this coffee shop and, like, sit there for 3 minutes and get my bearings. It's like, I'm leaving the house, I'm like, I better know, like, when the bus is gonna be there. I gotta know my stops, I gotta, like, navigate how to get there, because I don't know where anything is. And so it's just like, and of course I'm constantly doing that because I'm switching to different houses all the time, or not all the time, I've done that once, twice, but just enough where my brain has to be on a lot. And so yeah, so I think if I am not super excited about something, it's really hard to motivate me to go, because then I'm like, oh, so I have to, like, think, and that doesn't feel quite as fun to be like, oh, I'm gonna go out and I have to turn my brain on for the next, like, 4 hours and, like, make sure I don't miss my bus back. And, like, again, there's a lot of overthinking that we've had to do, which I know other really cool thing has just been, which cannot get enough, but as someone who overthinks a lot and worries a lot about a lot of things, and way more than any person should, I caught myself doing that a lot my first few weeks here, when I just wasn't having any fun at certain points, because I'd be like, I need to make my bus, what happens if I can't get an Uber, like, I need to make sure that I can, like, I'm just trying to work all of these things out in advance, because the thing is too, it's like, if something has been a hard part about solo traveling, it's just like, if something doesn't work, like, you have to just figure it out yourself. Like, there's no, and I'm someone who, I look to other people a lot just for confirmation. Like, I very much, like, I can make moves, but I like to have someone with me that's like, no, this is what we need to be doing. And I think that is a big reason why I'm here, is just to become more self-assured of, like, I'm deciding what we do and I have to deal with the consequences of it, which isn't fun. And again, it's just something I'm having to work out a lot, because it's just like, oh, so I have to make sure I find the right bus and get there on time, because if I don't, then I'm not gonna be back for the cats. Just things like that. And so I don't remember what I was saying. I booked the new Bridget Jones movie because I've seen all 3 of them, of course, and I was like, you know what, that could be fun. There are a couple movies out that are fine. Like, I want to see Captain America too. I'll probably do that in the next town that I'm at. But I realized, like, movies and shows, for one thing, I love any sort of event, any sort of thing that I'm just, like, going and I'm experiencing. Like, I love something like that so much. And movies are great because I realized too that it's like, I can go there and I can check out and, like, not have to think, and I don't have to worry about the next thing that I'm doing. And it also is just, like, fun and restful, versus being like, oh, I'm gonna go out to dinner by myself, which is just a whole other thing, especially when you're an American, because in London, which this is another thing, in London, I haven't experienced people, like, really, like, people just don't bat an eye at it, but just being in, like, villages, like, I stick out when I goes with them a little bit, and as soon as people hear me talk, they're like, like, everyone in the restaurant turns, and I'm like, and I'm by myself, which is fine. I love being at places by myself, and I, like, eating out by myself has always been one of my favorite things to do, but it's just, I don't like being perceived, and so having to get used to that. But anyway, so yeah, so I went to see this movie, and I had the lowest expectations, and I'm not even gonna recommend it just because I realized my expectations were so abysmally low for this. I was literally just like, I want to get out, like, I'll log in on Letterboxd, like, that's fun for me, and then I'll grab a coffee or something after, and I go to this theater, and it is so fun. Like, it's very much like, it's one of those dine-in theaters, and I went to one of the Soho theaters in London whenever I was there, and it's all a real pain. That movie's amazing, go see it. But I went, and it's called Everyman, if you're ever over here, and it's like a chain, so I'll probably go again, assuming that I know that they'll have them in one of the other towns that I'll be in. And it just was so cool and fun, and because you have like this beautiful, I wish I had taken a picture of it, but you like walk up, and it's just, it feels like Soho, and you walk up, and there's just this beautiful restaurant, and the cutest and nicest girl came and like welcomed me and like told me where to go, and it was just so fun. And they had all these food, and I got drinks, and I don't know, it just revived something in me where I literally was just like, oh, I just haven't let myself have fun because I've been so focused on just like, what do I need to learn, and like my discipline, that, which these are things that I realize that most people be like, yeah, Mia, like, why are you letting yourself have fun? But I just have very much been on that side of my headspace, and so it was just so fun because I'm like, wait, I can treat myself to a little lunch and a little drink, and then too I was like, okay, this movie, like, whatever. Also, it's just so cool. It's one of those where it's like couches everywhere, and so it's like super cozy, and yeah, it's just so funny to be like, oh, I almost didn't go, and that brought me so much joy. But anyway, so so I watched this movie. I don't like this, again, keep your expectations low, and like I still rated it, I think, like 3.5 stars to 5, if that tells you anything, and I cried. But there's literally just this line in it where like her dad had said to her, and was just like, I don't want you to, I'm gonna cry, but he said, like, I don't want you to survive, I want you to live. And literally, okay, but it was just so, like, I'm gonna think about that forever now, but which is so obvious and a little cheesy, but just the idea of like, oh, I don't want you to survive, I want you to live. And I'm just someone who, I'll get into survival mode and have to like feel like I'm living because I have to. And it was just such a like, and just like the idea of the story, which I'm not really gonna spoil it, but basically she's like grieving, and it was just a cool, like, oh, this is someone who is like choosing to like live their life again. And it was just like such a random, like, I would never have, like, because I saw all the promos for this movie and I was just like, this does not like look good, and I don't care to see it. And it was just, I just think it is the coolest thing whenever, I mean, just in general, like, art speaks to you and you're not expecting it, but I just love when you just stumble upon things that you weren't expecting and they just mean a lot to you. And randomly, okay, I'll bump it up to 4 stars, but randomly I was like, oh, this is like weirdly a message I need to hear right now, of just like carpe diem, like, I don't know, which we know and we see, but we always need a reminder of it. And I think it was also just felt so fitting that I was like, oh, this is the day that I like forced myself to, or felt like I had to force myself to get out and to go on an adventure, because I knew that I was getting into this weird space. And so to be met there was really cool. And then went to a coffee shop, and honestly, it was so sweet because I was like, I'm just gonna get myself coffee, read my little book, go to the store, and then go back. Like, that's all we really need to do. And it was just so sweet because the coffee shop that I was at, it's like, it was just like I don't even know, it's just kind of like indie, and it was just so fun because it felt like a Portland brew type of vibe. I was like, this is the Portland brew of this town, which, as we know, I could cry, but as we know, very hard loss for me, of like, that was my space in Nashville and that is gone. And so it was just so fun to be in a space where it's like, oh, this is that for other people. And there were just so many college students in there studying, and it just made me really happy to be in there. And just like the baristas like being like a little not nice, like just something about that fueled me, I guess. But then they were sweet, you know, but we worked it out and they're really cool. So I think I'm going back there tomorrow. And then whenever I left, of course I went at the right time where it was raining a little bit, so it's on my story. But then a rainbow comes out, and as you may or may not know, which rainbows obviously are symbolic for a lot of people and not just for me and like the Bible, but I love rainbows, and that, especially like my freshman sophomore year of college, that was like how the Lord like would speak to me. Like I cannot expect, like that was just like our language and our communication. And so it was just so cool of being like, oh, like the rain has gone away, like there is sunshine, I am in this really awesome city. Like rainbows, like to me, are always just a sign where it's like you're right where you're supposed to be. And so it just was so cool and gracious of the Lord to literally just be like, you're right where you're supposed to be, and I want you to live, and I don't want you to just survive. And yeah, I just feel really encouraged today, and so I wanted to do a recap. There have been a lot of not very good days because, again, I'm here alone, and I kind of started saying it, but I think it can be strange because, again, people have this expectation like I'm coming here and I'm taking London by storm, which, as we know, is naturally gonna happen because of who I am. But I'm not really here like, oh, I'm gonna make friends and I'm gonna do all these things, and I'm literally just like here to reboot. And again, now I'm kind of like, oh, I want to live, but like practically wise, I'm not exactly like, oh, I'm in the market for friends, because I move somewhere every month. So it's like, yeah, I could make a friend and I'm gonna go 5 hours away from them. So that has been a little strange, but it also, I love talking to strangers, and I love just getting the opportunity to have little interactions with people and make their days, and it fuels me. And I have just loved that for a long time, and so that has kind of been my form of community for a while. But anyway, so I go on Friday. Transition times are always the hardest for me, but I have like 4 days until I meet the next lady that I'm taking care of her cats for. But I go to Eastbourne next, which I'm so excited. I've seen conflicting reviews about the town itself, because some people are like, this is like a crummy little beach town, which I am just not a hard person to please. But that's where the Seven Sisters cliffs are, if you've seen them. They're stunning, literally the prettiest, like just one of the prettiest spots I've seen. So it's gonna be cool because I'm gonna be right by there, so I'm gonna get to go there. Anyway, I think that's everything in my brain. Yeah, man, God's good, and I really just get wrapped up in my head a lot, and then he meets us, and I think it's awesome.